Right. Are you settled?
I am indeed. Thank you for asking.
No, well, a man of your age, we need to know you're comfortable before we begin. Are we sitting comfortably?
We are indeed.
Good. Last week, I gave you some clues about a band that we were going to focus on this time. And I talked about a very accomplished drummer, a superb guitarist that unfortunately has passed away now, a phenomenal singer, and a very unusual bassist. And that band, you probably guessed it, but that band is, well, we're not going to tell you now. No. Actually, Albert is going to play a medley of their stuff, and if you can't guess it, you shouldn't be watching the channel.
All right, here's some clues.
But don't blame Albert.
Yeah. See if I get all these right.
Well, Albert, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thought it was, it was great. I was smiling all the way through. I really, really enjoyed hearing those little numbers. And of course, you know, we know, it's free, of course. So what we're actually going to concentrate on today is we're going to be looking at some great free memorabilia.
I'm really
some phenomenal
excited
free memorabilia.
Yeah.
Something a little bit controversial as well. But we're also going to be looking more closely at Andy Fraser's role. Which is often overlooked. You know, if you look at Andy Fraser's playing, his style of playing,
that's wonderful.
And the lead bass lines that he puts down are really, really good. And Albert picked up on one a little earlier on.
Yeah, let me talk about it. It was actually the guitar line from Mr. Big, but I'll talk about the bass line in it because there's so much space in this riff. This is a particularly good example. Days of room in there, and the reason is because, as you're saying, and Fraser's bass playing is so punchy and forward. Reminds me of kind of like the Motown stuff, and you know, where the bass is leading the track and pushes it on. He's very much got that influence, and it's funny actually. If you can hear me going, that's when his bass line comes in. That's the timing of his bass line.
Yeah. And this is why you should revisit Free and Andy Fraser. Because actually, when you start listening to the bass lines, you realise how bloody good he was. And actually, there's a lot of controversy over this. Did Andy Fraser write All Right Now? Well, according to Simon Kirk, he did. It was after a gig in Durham where they could hear their own footsteps as they walked off the stage.
Morale was an all-time low.
Fraser said, "We need a rocker to finish with." And that rocker became written by Andy Fraser and vocals by Paul Rogers. And they actually got a BMI award for that, for 3 million airplays.
Interesting.
In the United States. Yeah, 1 million airplays. Quite a play on words there.
Yes, gosh. All right, at risk of sounding like I'm doing the shipping forecast, I'm going to take you through a few of these bits of memorabilia. I've not actually seen some in person until today myself. So we'll start with these tickets. As we've got some for the Albert Hall there. There's the Brighton Blues scene at the Richmond. That's a Green's Playhouse poster. That's a signed letter from Denise Mills of the Island Artists and their discography there with the various lineups of the band. All topped off with that wonderful, huge poster there, which I'm considering stealing and using as wallpaper in my flat. Next up, we've got vinyl pressing of Tons of Sobs. signed by all of the band. Lovely signatures there, some great hairdos, funny faces, and a real great piece of free memorabilia. It's in brilliant condition as well. It's a real keeper. And lastly, we've got this self-titled album, again signed by all the band. There's Rogers, there's Fraser, Kossoff, and Kirk. Beautiful signatures again. And the interesting thing here is, look at the credits. So we've got Fraser Rogers on all of these songs, but Fraser's name is first. Well, that leads us nicely onto our myth.
This myth is going to say something completely different to what I understood. I understood that it was Rogers and Kossoff who founded Free.
Yes, and we're in charge.
I did read that Fraser was instrumental at the age of 13, which I don't believe at all. But this, what we're going to show you a bit later, is very, very interesting. And we want you to tell us, right, wrong, what do you think of this? Because it turns the myth on its head. Delving into the myth a bit further, and I need to put the glasses on for this. I'm going to read you a letter written by Andy Fraser, and I really do need some comments on this because we are going to go into some quite controversial ground. So here we go. This is a letter to, it's undated, but it's handwritten. So you'll have a look at that later, closer to. Dear Barry, my band Free and I will be happy to appear at the Resurrection Club, High Road, Whetstone, on the 4th of November, and that's going to be 1968, for a fee of 50% of the doors taking. We will arrive at 7 o'clock and will perform for 2 times 45-minute spots and expect payment to be made by cash on the night. Yours sincerely, Andy Fraser. And that he wrote that when he was living in Roehampton, Southwest 15, with his phone number on it. Now, further to that, there is then a contract. It's made between Ian Gilbert, hereinafter called the management of the one part, and Andrew Fraser, hereinafter called the artist of the other part. So, is Andy Fraser responsible for Free, or was it Kossoff and I've done it the other way. Rogers?
Rogers, yeah. So, in his written letter, it says my band Free.
It does. Andy Fraser's letter.
In Andy Fraser's letter. In their response, it cites Andy Fraser. Does it actually say the band Free anywhere in that response as well?
Well, that's an interesting question, because this is a formal document talking about an agreement and witnessed it. Let me read this to you, and this is really important for people that think that Paul Rogers and Paul Kossoff set up Free. The management hereby engages the artist, and the artist accepts an engagement to present Free, hereinafter called the Act, at the venue, on the date, for the period, at the salary stated on the schedule here too.
Wow. So that's pretty concise then, isn't it?
Yes. So I really would be interested for comments on this. And you know how to do that, don't you? Albert, tell them.
Well, get on the video, get on your keyboard.
No, keyboard warriors, come on!
Keyboard warriors. No, we really do want to hear this, because this is quite, the accepted thing is that obviously it was Rogers and Kossoff, but this does point otherwise, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a slightly controversial one, that one, but hey,
What
this has come out of the vaults. And that's VOLs, he said, which is where we are. So there we are.